Welcome to the Happy Homestead. I'm Amanda. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. And if you're an old friend that has been here for a while, welcome back. I'm also really glad you're here. We are kicking off a new thing, new project for 2024. 2023 was the bread challenge, learning how to make all of our own bread products, homemade breads, reducing that dependency on the store. We're going to take that same theory and that same principle and we're going to apply it to dairy for 2024. I am going to go through month by month some of the most common, most purchased, most used dairy products and show you how to make them at home with little effort, minimal ingredients, and you don't have to have any prior experience. This is going to be fun, and today we're going to kick it off with Chevre, which is like a soft goat cheese. But I don't have goat's milk. Maybe you don't either. I'm not going to use goat's milk. I am going to be using my cow milk. This just happened to be kind of like a happy accident for me a few months ago, where I had my Chevre culture, but I've never had goat milk in the house. It's just not something that I'm readily able to get, and I don't even know what else I'd do with it besides Chevre, so I don't buy it. Maybe it's the same for you, but cow's milk, we're part of a herd share with a local farm, and we get raw A2A2 milk once a week, and it is such a godsend. I'm so happy and I feel blessed and grateful to have that opportunity. But you do not have to use raw milk. You can absolutely use store-bought milk. I'm calling this the 2024 Homemade Dairy Invitational. I mean, it's dairy products, but each month we're going to be doing something different. I don't have a dairy cow. Maybe that's in the cards someday, but it's not right now. I don't have a dairy goat. Maybe you find yourself in that same predicament. It's okay, you don't have to. So if all you have access to is the store-bought milk, no problem. The thing you're going to want to look for if you're buying store-bought milk throughout this 2024 Homemade Dairy Product Invitational is that you're buying pasteurized, or it might be called low pasteurized or VAT pasteurized, but you do not want to buy ultra pasteurized milk. So if you're at the store, look for just regular pasteurized, low, or VAT pasteurization, but not ultra. And I'll give you a clue there. With the ultra, that's a lot of the big national brands rather than the local, more regional brands. So we're going to start with making Chevre. This process is so easy. And even though we're using cow's milk, by using the Chevre culture, it tastes like goat cheese. It tastes like Chevre. And so I made this a week ago just to kind of test it again, and it's already gone. My children devoured it. They love it. So let's make another batch. I'm going to show you how to do this, and you are going to be amazed. First and foremost, you need 2 ingredients. You need Chevre culture and you need milk. I'm using a half of a gallon. Now this culture, and I'll tell you, I buy a lot of my cultures from New England Cheese Making Company. They are a United States company. They're located out of, I think, Massachusetts, and their website really is newenglandcheesemaking.com. Marley really wanted to make his appearance tonight. And so you can find a lot of cultures there, all the cultures really, but you might also be able to find a Chevre culture on Amazon. Another really reputable brand is Cultures for Health, and I can link that down below in the show notes, and you can buy that on Amazon too. But you want to get a Chevre culture. Now this one says to heat a gallon of milk. I'm not doing a gallon. I'm only doing a half. It's okay. We just go through with the process. We're gonna heat it up to 86 degrees. We're gonna add our packet, and this is basically a freeze-dried culture. So we're gonna sprinkle it, it's like a powder, on top of the milk once it hits 86 degrees. You let it sit for a couple of minutes because what's happening is it's freeze-dried. The milk is actually rehydrating the culture. Then we're gonna stir it. We're gonna put a lid on it, and we're gonna let it sit overnight 12, 14 hours and come back to it tomorrow. So easy, and it's easy to do right before you go to bed. So along with milk and the culture, you're going to need a good stainless steel pan. You do not want to be making any kind of cheese making product in aluminum. And copper is really good, but I would also be careful of copper because depending upon the quality of copper you have and the lining inside, right, stainless steel is your best option. The other thing you're gonna need is some sort of temperature gun. I will link this one down below. I bought this probably 2 or 3 years ago now. I use this for cheese making and I use it for soap making. It's fantastic, but you need some sort of temperature gauge so you can measure the temperature of your milk. Now, the one mistake I made when I first started doing cheese, and I wanna make sure you don't make this mistake, is when it says heat it up to 86, 95, 110, whatever the case is. But anything under 100, especially at 86, it happens quite fast. So be watching it and be careful. I am going to pour in my half a gallon of milk into my pan, and then we're gonna get it heated up. So I'm putting my burner on a medium heat right now. But you do want to stir it occasionally. You can use any type of spoon, but again, I'd be careful with whatever that spoon's made of. I would stick with stainless steel. This is called a cheese slotted spoon, and they are easy to find. You don't have to have this, but I'm just showing you what I'll be using. And the reason why it's called that is because it has all of these holes. And so when you're stirring, it's really mixing through the milk, the cream, and the culture, and eventually maybe the rennet if you're making a hard cheese. By the way, throughout this challenge for 2024, the Homemade Dairy Product Invitational, there's no hard cheeses. I just want to let you know that because that requires a different level of effort, not necessarily a different level of skill, but a different level of effort and equipment. And I really want this to be approachable for you. So we're going to be doing different types of dairy products that you probably are already buying that don't require a lot of equipment and expense. So you're just going to be stirring occasionally because you don't want your milk to get scalded or burned on the bottom. But by having it on a medium heat, that should prevent that from happening. And eventually you'll start seeing the temperature rise. So already we're at 55, just in those few minutes. So we're gonna be watching this, and remember, we're gonna get it to 86. I also don't want you to fret that if you get over 86, it's okay. You don't wanna get too far over, right? But if you just miss it and all of a sudden you're at 88 or 89 or 90, it's okay. Take it off the burner and just proceed. It's all part of the learning experience. All right, we're at 87 degrees. So I'm gonna turn the burner off, and I'm actually gonna take the milk kind of off of the heat. Be very careful with your burner being hot. And I'm just gonna cut the top of the culture packet off, and we're going to sprinkle it. And again, it's like a white powder. We're just gonna sprinkle it over the top. Again, don't touch it. Let it sit for about 2 minutes to rehydrate on the surface of the milk, and then we'll stir it in. We're now gonna stir our culture in, and we're gonna stir it back and forth as well as up and down. The goal is to truly try to thoroughly mix it through the milk. And here's the easiest part. Put the lid on, set it on the back of your stove, and leave it. You want to make sure that it's not on a heat source. So I may take it off because I'm running my oven right now to cook dinner. I may take it off and just put it on the counter. You don't want to get it too much higher in temperature, but the key is to cover it and leave it. And we're going to leave it for about 12 to 14 hours. We're going to come back tomorrow, and you should expect to see it almost kind of come together. It should pull away from the sides of the pan, and you may even see a clear, almost like a water, clear liquid on top, and that's all perfectly normal. So take it off of the heat source, keep the lid on, and walk away. And I will see you tomorrow, and we'll come back after about 12 to 14 hours and go to the next step. Good morning. We are back here in the kitchen. It's been about 14 hours since we last cultured our milk and we let it sit overnight. Now, I didn't mention, we just let it sit overnight at room temperature. Now, coincidentally, it was extremely cold last night, but it was still probably anywhere between 65, between 65 and 70 here in the house. So you're just letting it sit overnight at room temperature. We're going to take a look at it now and go to the next step. Okay, so you remember I said it would probably have some sort of clear liquid on the top, and it should separate away from the pan. And hopefully you can see that. It's certainly separated, and if I move it, right, there's a little bit of a clear kind of maybe somewhat opaque liquid on top. Now, I also used raw milk, and so the cream did rise to the top, but we're gonna see the delineation between basically our curd as well as the whey. So here on the counter, I just have a large bowl with a strainer and a clean piece of cheesecloth. All we are gonna do is start ladling the solidified curd into our cheesecloth lined strainer. See how the cream separated, and that's the other milk. Now remember, I did a half a gallon of milk, and this is why. I mean, we're gonna be draining off a lot of the extra unnecessary liquid, but even with a half gallon of milk, I still end up with a good amount of Chevre style cheese to last for a couple of weeks. Okay, I think that's pretty good. There might be a couple of little pieces in there, but for the most part, we've got it all. It's all fit in our strainer, in our cheesecloth, and you're gonna start to see kind of a milky liquid start draining out. I like to gather the ends of my cheesecloth and just kind of make sure everything stays in the cheesecloth. And I'll twist it, create a little tension, and leave it like that. So as if last night's process wasn't easy, this even gets easier. Now you're gonna let it sit. You're gonna let it sit anywhere from, I usually say 4 to 6 hours. I usually lean more heavy towards that 6-hour mark, but I will have to check it every couple of hours because I wanna drain off any of that liquid that's coming in the bottom of the bowl. You just don't want that liquid to get so high that then your strainer and cheesecloth and subsequently cheese are sitting in the liquid. The whole purpose is to drain that off. So periodically I will come over, take the bowl, dump the liquid down the drain in the sink. It's nothing that I'm saving, and then continue to let it sit. And again, we're gonna let it sit close to 6 hours. Now remember, we haven't salted, we haven't flavored with any types of herbs or added any kind of honey. Sometimes you see different flavors and herbs and honey added to goat cheese. We haven't done any of that yet. Give it time. Right now, we're gonna let all of those curds drain and become this wonderfully creamy Chevre style cheese. It's been 5 hours since we last saw each other, and my cheese has kind of stopped draining. It's hard to see here, but there is you can even see it, such little liquid left in here. So once you start notice that it's like really slowing down, and I dumped the bowl probably about 3 or 4 times with a decent amount of liquid, it has absolutely slowed down. It's been 5 hours. We're going to season our Chevre style cheese. So you can see very little in there. So I have a clean glass bowl here. I'm going to put the curds in here, And this is what I'm going to use to keep it in the refrigerator. I'm going to undo the cheesecloth. And in your cheesecloth, you might have some decent size chunks that you can try to get out too. This is the fun part, I think, because now we have this gorgeous Chevre style cheese. Oh, it smells so good. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. I'm gonna add some dried parsley, some dried chives, mix it all up, and it's ready to go. And you're gonna wanna use your fresh Chevre style cheese within about 2 weeks, but I doubt it's gonna last that long. Now remember, we just made a ½ gallon's worth. I haven't found the need to make a gallon's worth, but if you're trying to do something where you need to make some appetizers or you're serving a crowd, by all means go with a gallon, and you're still just gonna use that 1 packet of Chevre culture. So when I say this is the best part, it's because you can get creative. Now I'm doing parsley, chives, and salt, but I have seen people drizzle in a little bit of honey, maybe a little bit of lavender flowers. You can do onion powder, garlic powder, make it more savory, make it more sweet. You could make it simple and just do salt, and it will be delicious just like that also. So before I start adding everything in, I'm just gonna kind of make a well in the middle. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of Redmond real salt, maybe a little bit less than a teaspoon. Yeah, probably less. Some dried parsley. Now we are probably going to eat this on bread, toasted bread, with some smoked salmon and capers and maybe a little red onions. So I'm choosing to make this more of a savory flavor. We're just gonna start mixing it through. Now at this point, it's thoroughly mixed. I could add some more herbs because they're pretty sparsely integrated in here. But I'm gonna leave it as is because I don't want the herbs to outshine the beautiful cheese. But I am gonna taste it because I need to make sure it tastes good and it's salted properly. It's delicious, but it actually does need a tad more salt. But salt it to your liking. You could add cracked black pepper. You could even shape this, right? Sometimes you find Chevre cheese in some sort of log shape on charcuterie boards of some sort. So you could even shape this into some molds using parchment paper or saran wrap if you so choose. I find just in a glass bowl, easily able to be picked with a knife and spread is just all we need. And there you have it. With very little effort, very minimal ingredients, and very little financial output, you have just made your own Chevre style cheese. You're gonna wanna keep this in a covered container in the refrigerator, like I said, for about 2 weeks. Use it as you would any other cream cheese or soft cheese. It is going to elevate your cheese experience in your home. I am so glad that you're here with me and we were able to kick off our 2024 Homemade Dairy Product Invitational. Well, we did it. We made a Chevre style cheese at home. Next month, we do something different. Thank you for joining me. Let me know if you try this, and also let me know what you'd really learn to make this year. I have some ideas, but I want to hear yours. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.